Here we go on the second part of our tour around the farm. I'm sorry that the last one ended a little bit abruptly, but it was sort of halfway through, so I just cut it. I'll try and say a little bit at the end of this one so that you know that it is the end and that we're getting ready for part 3. So I hope you're enjoying this one. So continuing where we left off on part 1 of the tour, I do not usually stop halfway round and leave people for a while before we carry on, but I'm sure you'll understand you didn't want a 20-minute tour. So here we go, we're going through. Now this area, this was so overgrown, you literally couldn't get through here. You couldn't even see the fence, the brambles were so high. And it took us a long time before we cleared this, but eventually we cleared it. There was all sorts of junk at the bottom of this hill where people have been throwing things and tipping from Yarmouth Road or from the top field over years and years and years. Took a lot of clearing, but eventually we cleared it and cut back a lot of branches so that you can actually walk through. And it was quite amazing to open up the far side of the reservoir. And then a couple of years ago, the Prince's Trust came along and in a couple of weeks took us on an amazing journey up these stairs. This is Sooty Bank, which you've possibly heard me talk about before. The black soil is not black soil, that's soot. Years and years of accumulated soot from the local chimney sweep dumping it. So this was just a sheer bank, almost impossible to get up. Very difficult, very painful, always getting spiked with things and falling down. But these steps have made it now a great part of the tour around the farm. And when you get to the top, you get into 3-acre field. The field on the right is 3-acre field. Guess why? Because it's 3 acres. And we fenced it off. So we used to put the alpacas up here and we used to walk around it. But actually now we grow hay on there. So the grass is quite long. We were going to cut it this last weekend, but the forecast is for rain next weekend. So it's a bit dodgy. We didn't want to lose our crop. So we're going to wait for couple of weeks of good sunshine, but that'll be our first crop of hay this year. And as we come along here now, we see the Bowser in front. That's for the field that the alpacas are just about to be moved into. And on the left here is a viewing platform looking down on the reservoir. Beautiful construction. Really blessed to have Pete put this in for us a few years ago. Absolute great addition to the farm, where you can just stand here and take in the farm. You can hardly see a house, can you? Look right over there in the distance. Now this is back down to the bottom of Sooty Bank again. This is the other route. If you don't go up the stairs up Sooty Bank, you can carry on down the McDonald's path, where the guys from McDonald's came along last spring, about a year ago actually, and in 3 days they created this path. We need a few weeds taken up now, but it's brilliant to have this accessibility around the back part of the reservoir. So nice bits of natural fencing there holding the twigs and trees and soil up on the right hand side. And then as you go along, all the way along, you've got the reservoir on the left. There's bird life. The noise of birds singing is wonderful. And there's the odd bird box put up on the trees. It was courtesy of Gaius. This is just lovely. So there's the reservoir. You can just see the bird hide over in the right hand corner, and that's the big sluice that the water goes through when it gets a bit deep. The bench was made by Paul and then painted by a couple of the other farm workers, so it's really great. Corporate colours. We're thinking of having a bird hide in this corner as well, because there's just this great view. There's a lot of weed come on the pond recently. There goes a bird. I wish I knew what that was. I'm sure Gaius can tell us. Not as many birds as there are some times of the year. And then you carry on. Now this last bit here, the steps going up, this was actually help from the DWP again. We had a team there, and they came along and where we'd done a bit of digging, and then they put in all the sleepers here, and it's just lovely to be able to walk the entire perimeter of the pond with these great views. Look, I'll just show you again. Trees leaning over, shade, bird song, tranquility. Beautiful. You could be anywhere, couldn't you? This could be anywhere. We're 100 yards from Tesco's, and yet this is in the middle of the countryside. It's just splendid. I can't think of a more perfect site for a care farm. Then we get to the top of the stairs. Bit of a climb, this one. A couple of big steps there at the end. And straight ahead of us is the field where the alpacas are about to go. There's that Bowser that we showed earlier, and 3-acre field beyond. So the grass that's in there will soon be munched down once the alpacas get in there and start grazing. But we need to move them around because they do eat the grass right down to nothing virtually. So now we're sort of heading south. There's the new link road over on the right hand side. Surprisingly quiet. Look at that lovely blue sky. What a nice day. So continue our walk. Yeah, as I said, we're going south now. There is another bridge, the first bridge that we ever built, just over there on the right hand side through the trees. So we had to take a couple of trees out so that we could get through this area here. The dark patch is where we've had donkeys and alpacas grazing on this area before. Picnic table made out of recycled plastic, that table and chairs. Nice place to sit and have lunch right by the pond. This part was so overgrown. You literally, it was impassable. The brambles came from one side and they reached the brambles on the other side when we took this over. And it took lots of cutting. It's hard to imagine what it used to be like because it's all so contained and manicured now. But originally this was a machete job to try and get through. And then we put the bird hide in. I won't go in there now, but there's been some videos of looking at the bird life from the bird hide. Wonderful place to go and sit, while away a few hours. And then up a few small steps. We get some nice soft fruit actually on the bushes on the right. We also get sloes about every 2 years. We have tried making sloe gin, but it's not usually been that successful. I guess it all depends on the quality of the gin. That's what I've been told. Maybe we've been a bit too cheap with our gin. So behind the fence, that's the bit that's owned by Essex and Suffolk. And again, Jakey's been through here with his mower, which has been great. Make it more passable, past all the bushes. You can kind of half imagine what it was like when this used to just encroach. And then straight ahead, the alpaca field. To the left are the steps that lead down to the woodland walk. So that's where we came out of the woodland walk in the previous tour. Back to the alpaca field. And over on the right, you can see the polytunnels. You can see that thing on the left, that's a fly catcher. We get a lot of trouble with flies biting the donkeys and biting the alpacas. So we've got a few fly catchers. It's just sort of a syrupy stuff in there that attracts them and they get stuck in there. So that's our third polytunnel, which we've done a little while ago. And that's our bottom field. The other polytunnel's at the top with the barns. And I'll just head along this path on our way back. It's a really nice walk. I can thoroughly recommend it. People wonder what we do on the farm. Well, sometimes we work, sometimes we look after animals, sometimes we plant things and harvest them and grow stuff, and other times we just enjoy the countryside and we go for a walk and we sit. You can't beat that sometimes. We all live busy lives and there's a lot of pressure to do things, but actually relaxation is vital. So that's the end of the second tour around the farm, and tomorrow we'll start filming the third tour, which will be coming around to see more of the animals and where the pens are and the polytunnels and the market garden, that kind of thing.